Please hold the line. We will answer your call as soon as possible.
There he
Hey there, big
is.
man. How you doing?
What's going on?
Not much. Tell me about this backdrop. It's very bricky.
Yeah, we have earthquakes in LA, so we like to put bricks in our buildings. Doesn't that make
Makes
sense?
Ton of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool, man. Well, thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it.
my pleasure.
You ready to go?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool. So I'm Michael Schneider. I'm the founder and CEO of Service, and this is the first edition of Please Hold, which is a new podcast we're doing to talk about business, life, and the sexy world of customer service. And our first guest today is Ryan Holmes, the CEO and founder of Hootsuite. So Ryan, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. I can't believe I'm the first guest.
You're the first guest, man.
This is so exciting. I had no idea.
Yeah, we're going to be able to look back a year from now after hundreds of episodes. You're going to be number one.
It's incredible. Thank you so much. It's an honor.
Thank you. So I have a bunch of questions for you. And the first thing I wanted to ask you is really about the way you grew up. Because my understanding is you grew up on a farm with some electricity or no electricity, but certainly not a lot of technology. And I'm curious how someone that grows up on a farm kind of in the middle of nowhere with barely having electricity comes to start and run one of the most important technology companies in social media.
Well, yeah, it's I guess it is a bit of a paradigm, isn't it, or a bit of a contrast. I grew up in the Okanagan, in Canada, so Western Canada, and yeah, my parents decided to get a hobby farm, so it was a very remote childhood.
What's a hobby farm?
A hobby farm is I wouldn't be like a farm for commerce. It would be a farm for yourself. It's your hobby. You're not like selling a lot of product off of it, which would be a commercial venture. So, yeah, I grew up on this farm. There were, goats and chickens and honeybees and a well, kerosene lamps, and it was very Little House in the Prairies, and was an amazing place to grow up. And to your point, I discovered technology and all these amazing things like electrical lights and ultimately computers, and got so excited about that. And it's funny. I guess sometimes you do the opposite of what your parents do, and I've thoroughly embraced technology. And long story short, yeah, I'm now deeply in it.
What was your first experience? Was it some video game console? Were you running a bulletin board? Were you programming in BASIC? Like, what hooked you into technology?
Well, actually, it started in grade 5. I went to the school library, and they had all of these fun things there. Computers were there's Apple IIc and 2 Plus computers, and I was immediately hooked like a moth to a flame, and started playing with these computers, starting with games and educational games that they had, but realized pretty quickly, and the librarian was a great guy, super influential, I guess, in my path. And he let me know that you can actually make games and you can learn how to program and build them. And he taught me a little bit about BASIC, and I just got even more hooked. I started playing with them all the time. And as I started programming more, he one day let me know that there was a school district-wide computer programming contest that was going on, and the grand prize was an Apple IIc computer. It's probably about a $3,000 computer back in, we're talking about like 1985 here, 1986, and so it was a monster prize. And so I entered into it. He asked if I wanted to go into this contest. I said, yeah, absolutely. So I did go into it, entered. I ended up winning the computer, which was mind blowing. Took it home, but I had a problem, which you probably can see already, and that was that we didn't have any electricity. So my dad, being the great guy that he is, he took the computer, he went to an electronics store, he got it rewired, and so every day I'd come home after school and I'd pop the trunk on my mom's car, and I'd take a couple of alligator clips and plug it onto the car battery. Wow. And there'd be a line going into the house, and I'd play on the computer until the wee hours and program away. So, that was my early kind of story about my passion for computers. And, I did a number of different businesses through the years that ultimately led me back into software and where, my 12-year-old self was passionate.
That's awesome, man. You really had to work for it to be on a computer. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So fast forward to today, what is your daily tech routine? When you first wake up in the morning, are you on email? Are you on social media? Is your phone off? Like what do you do to kind of ramp up into the day?
Yeah, I love mobile. I love how it, gives us freedom but it gives us accountability as well. I think there's an interesting balance there. I do wake up, I do roll over, I check my inbox, I check social media, and I'm primarily just doing a little check to see if there's any fires going on. Did anything blow up in my sleep? Is there anything that I need to, highly urgent stuff? And that's, I think as I said, the great thing, the liberating thing is like I can just do a quick check, nothing going on there, and then I can kind of get on with my day. And I usually do a bit of reading in bed, seeing what's going on in the world, getting caught up, finding interesting articles, often around technology, around social impact of social. We're seeing so much of this right now with what's going on in the world, Facebook Live, how that's absolutely changing reporting, and some of the issues we're seeing with Black Lives Matter and other things. So, anyways, I spend a bit of time there just getting caught up. Then I get on with my day, and on the other side, the book end of the day, going to sleep. It's a similar thing. I do a quick check to see what's going on social, how our customers are doing. Do they have any problems, issues with our product, and interacting with them, and then I call it.
Any favorite apps right now other than email and Hootsuite?
Yeah, I those ones I'm definitely big fans of. I my job is to investigate new apps, so I have hundreds of apps, on my phone. But I'm playing a lot with Snapchat recently. It's obviously a force to be reckoned with, and it's got amazing growth. And I've been on it for a couple of years, but the interesting thing I've seen is that now some of my friends from 2008 when we started doing Hootsuite that were huge on Twitter at that point, are also playing around a lot with Snapchat and trying to understand. So in that last year, I've seen a lot more people join and get into it, and so it's like people are finally arriving at the party. And
do you get Snapchat? Like, are you super into it, or is it something you're using because you're curious and trying to figure out what's going on?
I feel like I get it, but there was a point where I didn't get it, and it was you get into it, and again, getting to a party too early when nobody's there, it's kind of like you're looking around and what's the point of this whole thing. But once some people start to get there and you start interacting, you start having fun with it. I think the thing with Snapchat is, the ephemeral nature of it is really important. I think it takes a lot of a lot of people, their minds get blown on the eternal nature of things that they put into social. You send a tweet, you put something on Facebook, and people are like, that's going to be out there forever. And they get a little bit worried about that. They get worried about people maybe downloading it and sharing it and getting out of hand. And so I think that people have some reluctance. I think a lot of CEOs and executives have reluctance around, doing the wrong thing in social.
Yep.
And I think this kind of lowers the bar of the risk and ability for people to kind of quote unquote mess up. And so lets them play, and just it makes it fun. And I think that's what I encourage people to do with with Snapchat, is to try to play and have fun.
Cool. So let's talk about Hootsuite. I know you started a agency, I believe, and then started working on Hootsuite, and then Hootsuite started becoming interesting, and you eventually spun it out in 2009. Is that right?
Yeah. So That's right. So, I started the agency in 2000. Over the years, we did a hybrid of services work to, help customers solve problems that they had, and really rode the whole wave of internet, from building a website, in 2000s, 2001, 2, 3. A lot of people were having that problem, to then getting it out there and search and that whole wave of SEO, SEM, PPC, to the advent of social and things like we built a video contesting platform. So we were doing all these services for our customers. Then we were building products, and as I mentioned, kind of corollary products, riding these various waves.
Did it start with Twitter?
Hootsuite itself started with Twitter, yeah. And so the aha moment was that we were doing services for customers, helping them. We had another product which was a video contesting platform. We would help people with all of the logistics around running a video contest online, and we found that our customers wanted us to help promote the contest on social. And so we would use social as a channel, and there just wasn't a good tool at that time to go and message into social to help share content for multiple team members and multiple social networks. And so that was the aha moment.
This is 08, 09?
Yeah, it's 08.
08.
Yeah.
So this is a year and a half or 2 years after Twitter itself was founded.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So you guys, were you the first one to really kind of create a system where people could easily manage channels and talk?
Yeah, there were other products out there. So TweetDeck, Seismic, CoTweet, all were kind of out in the market. We came in a little bit later. The vision on specifically TweetDeck and Seismic was to build a social media browser for consumers. And that was never the vision that we had coming out of the gates. The product that I wanted to build was a tool to help teams manage social media. And I often think about it as like Basecamp for social media, 37 Signals product, Basecamp.
So you were B2B and the other guys were more of a B2C angle?
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. That was our play. So I would say, be one of, if not the first product out there to help businesses manage social media. We helped power users. A lot of those power users were in small, medium, but also took us into enterprise businesses. And the rest is kind of history. We've been building it for the last almost 8 years.
That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about customer service, because this podcast is called Please Hold, and I look like I'm in a call center right now.
You do.
Twitter arguably is the platform for customer service in the world. At Service, we see people create Twitter accounts just to complain sometimes, and they don't use Twitter otherwise. But, when you have an issue with a business, when you have your choices of calling, or I guess some people still write letters or fax, or tweeting at a company, the tweeting option seems to be the most popular one. First of all, what do you do as a consumer when you have a customer service issue with a business? Are you smarter than I am and say my time's more valuable? I'm just gonna relax and move on, or are you super active and you got to kind of make it right before you can move on?
So I think it depends. It depends on the value of the product or service, how you value that against your time, and there's a whole lot of factors there. How frustrated you are, how emotional you are about the good or bad service you've received.
Do you have an example? Like, is there something recently you've had to deal with with it?
I had a bit of a funny one anecdotally that happened. So, I think about our product. There's a whole life cycle of customers that we help our businesses that are using our products manage. And so I think about the awareness through to a sale, and then on the other side, trying to help those customers become passionate advocates of your product. And the example was Roomba. So iRobot, company that manages Roomba. I saw that you might have seen it, the cat wearing a shark costume on a Roomba, and somebody's driving the cat around. So that was my awareness point. I caught that through social and watched it. It was funny. I then asked friends about Roomba on social, asking them who has one, do they love it. I ended up acquiring a Roomba. Mm-hmm. I then shared and kind of like, hey, this is great. I bought one, shared it on social. And then And this isn't a terrible situation, but around Christmas time, we had a Christmas tree. There were some Christmas lights dangling off of it. I came home and my Roomba had just caught in the lights and chewed up, all wound up in the thing. There were needles everywhere. Presents were all like skewed around. This thing had done it was hilarious. So I took a snap of it and I shared it on social. I wasn't really. I just thought it was funny. I wasn't saying like, I need, I need a pound of flesh here or something like that. But I tagged Roomba and I said, hey, this is pretty funny. And what do you know? Like the team got back to me instantly. The iRobot through Twitter team got back to me instantly, and they're like, "Oh, Mr. Holmes, looks like you had a problem with your Roomba. We'd love to help, make your Christmas merry and bright, and we'd love to send you a new Roomba." And I was like you're kidding me. I had like an older model, and so I went back and forth, shared my address with them. They sent me a brand new Roomba, if you can believe it.
Oh, that's awesome.
So now I'm like the biggest advocate of this product. I'm, talking with you about it. I go on the road and I talk about it. So I guess the thing that they did, paid off. But I think a great example of a super smart brand that is actively listening on social and trying to help out their customers and is empowered to help out their customers.
That's a great story, and that sounds like it's Twitter's dream to have brands and consumers have that experience on their platform. And
sure,
sounds like a great example. What do you think about what Facebook is doing? Because Facebook now is making a huge play to become the platform where consumers and businesses talk. Mm-hmm. And that seems to me largely aimed at Twitter's jugular in terms of customer service. Don't go on Twitter, this thing that you're already on Facebook, you may or may not be on Twitter, just go to Facebook and we can help you there. What do you see in your business? Is that a thing? Is Hootsuite going to support it? Do you think at the end of the day, one or the other is going to win, or there's room for both?
I think there's room for both, and I think there's going to be room for more. I think that right now, you want your customers, you want to have as little friction as possible. If you're dealing with customers that are already in an emotional state, or frustrated enough. First off, if your customers are reaching out to you, that's because they love you and want to continue to have business with you. If they give up, that's when you should, that's a sad point in your business. So I always think about this as an opportunity to help somebody become one of your most passionate customers.
I think that's completely true, but I also think that brands often make it difficult to get in touch with them because they don't want to give out compensation when things don't go right. Do you think that's true, or do you think the world's kind of shifting a bit?
I think that I believe that that's shifting, and I think that that is an old and dying psychology and business model. And I think that businesses that don't understand the lifetime value of a customer, the frustration of a 1-800 call tree, those businesses are going to get their lunch eaten by competitors that are more nimble and agile and deal with the new paradigm of where their customers live, which is social.
Let's talk about the phone tree. You just brought it up. Do you think that the shift that I'm seeing is people, instead of calling, are chatting or going on Twitter? Do you think that's just a generational thing? Like in 30 years, the idea of calling a 800 number and pushing 1 for this and 2 for that is going to seem very archaic? Or do you think that people just prefer different mediums and both are going to coexist?
I think that I believe that the call tree is dead. I think that it will generationally shift, and it will be, call tree replaced going to visit a brick and mortar. And I think the next evolution is ubiquity in terms of where people can reach out. There may be, I think if you do the economics on a 1-800 call tree, et cetera, versus a truly world-class social customer support operation, I think that the ROI is higher on managing through social and through various chat channels, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, WeChat, Telegram, and others. I think the ROI is higher, and I think the customer satisfaction is higher because you don't have that initial gating and routing issue. Yep. And so I absolutely believe that that's the future.
That's because a human answers. right now on a chat. And that was going to be my next question for you. Where do you see bots in this whole thing? Everyone's very excited about bots right now. They've got thrown around a lot. And do you see a world where you're chatting with a bot before a human or instead of a human? Or do you think chat's going to primarily be consumer to human?
No, I think that, look, we're somewhere in the continuum between caveman and Star Trek. And if we think
It's
about
a big continuum.
there's a big point, a big continuum there. We're somewhere along that point. Do I believe that in the future AI and bots are going to be a big part of this? Absolutely. I think that is coming quicker than a lot of people expect. I think that that if you think about brands at scale, the amount of volume that they have, they need a way to help filter and route these messages. I believe that AI is going to really help us be able to do that. And I believe that's going to be to the benefit of everybody. I think that that'll be to the benefit of consumers, because they'll be able to get instantly routed to the right person and intelligently. I think that we're not there exactly today, but I think that'll come very quickly.
Yeah, I totally agree. And from brands that I've talked to, they tell me that it costs them a fraction of the amount to handle a customer service issue or any issue via chat than it does via the phone, which is ironic because most people our age would prefer to chat than call.
Yes.
And
so
yet
it's perfect alignment. It's ROI alignment, and it's customer desire and satisfaction. So I absolutely agree with you. And we're supporting 15 million customers on our product. Our propensity and our customer propensity is to solve problems through chat. Best for the customer, and also we can multi-thread support issues through chat with our customers. So we can have an agent that works on 2 or 3 chat windows. If you're on the phone, you can only handle one. So again, ROI is much higher.
That's awesome. In terms of what Hootsuite does, we've noticed that you guys are you're very friendly on Twitter, which is not surprising, but your team really kind of like introduces themselves and shares pictures of themselves, and it really like personalizes the experience. Whereas when you think of a bot is very impersonal. How important do you think that personal touch is, and is it possible for bots to have personalities and be personal?
Yeah, I think that the personal touch is important, and I think that bots can have personality, and I think that will only evolve more and more over time. I think that we're going to start to see directories of bots where people are creating different bots, where there'll be a service bot, there'll be an Australian service bot, there'll be a pick your flavor, pick your accent, pick your your cultural norms, and those will all be wired into a bot personality, so that they're responding to you in a less homogenous way and more specialized to you and maybe your interests and who you are. And that's pretty amazing. And I think that actually, at some point in the future, will go above and beyond what a human could do out of the gates. And so I'm absolutely bullish on this as a future for customer support.
To me, that sort of reminds me of if you're really pissed off about a situation and someone just catches you off guard a little, makes a joke or makes a comment or something, all of a sudden it can diffuse it a bit. And it seems like if your bot was messing around or being funny, it has that potential a little bit, as opposed to someone just yelling and screaming.
Sure. Yeah, why not?
Cool. So in the last few minutes, talk to me about the Maple Syrup Mafia. I think a lot of people haven't heard of the Maple Syrup Mafia yet, but talk to me about it, how did it start, and what is the tech scene in general in Vancouver like these days?
Yeah, so we're based in Vancouver, BC, Canada. We've got offices globally: London, Bucharest, Singapore, Toronto. We've got people in San Francisco, New York, et cetera, Australia, all around the globe. But our headquarters are in Vancouver. And the technology scene has been I think globally, I think decentralizing a little bit out of the valley. I mean, I know that you're in LA and have folks there. There's a lot of great startups and a great startup scene that's building out of LA with Snapchat and others. And so I think we're seeing a bit of a decentralization. I've been talking about this for years in Canada about how we can really rise the tide in our ecosystem. And there's a group in the Valley called the PayPal Mafia, and they are ex-PayPalers, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, David Sachs, and a whole bunch of others that are amazing technologists that have gone on to do more and more amazing projects, and also have heavily invested back into the ecosystem in terms of angel investing, etc. And a few years ago, I coined this concept of the Maple Syrup Mafia, which would be Canada's version of the PayPal Mafia, and that we needed a Maple Syrup Mafia. And so that kind of stuck. I think that we are getting a better and better Maple Syrup Mafia within Canada. There's alum of Hootsuite that are out in the marketplace building businesses that are also investing in other businesses, as well as a number of different startups in Canada, Shopify and others that are going public and creating a bigger and better ecosystem. And so that's the long and short of the Maple Syrup Mafia, and a bit of a synopsis on Canadian technology.
Is maple syrup Canada's most important export to the world?
That and Hootsuite.
Okay. So my last question is just about fundraising. You've raised a lot of money, you've been successful at it. Where do you think we're at in this cycle? Do you see it coming to an end? Do you think we're healthier now than we were a year ago? What's your take?
Yeah, it's everybody loves that question, and rightly so. It's important for everybody to kind of get a pulse and understanding of the vibrancy of the technology ecosystem and where this is going, and the funding ecosystem is absolutely plays with that. I think that right now businesses are going to become better and better rewarded for cash responsibility versus large growth. And so growth is great, and we all want growth, but I think historically people were burning cash at an alarming rate in order to achieve high levels of growth. And I think the markets are going to reward that less than they will businesses that are a little more fiscally responsible, maybe burning at a lower rate, maybe not achieving the same high percentage growth, but have a path to profitability and a story for profitability. And so, I think that will reflect in maybe less consumer app creation. The idea of just creating an app to get customers or to get users without a direction. I think that may start to come into play. So the other side of it is the cash supply. And I believe that there is a global oversupply of cash that is not going away. I think there's more cash that's sitting on the sidelines. So that being said, I think that if you look at what people are getting in the bank in terms of interest, they're not getting any. And so what are they going to do? They're going to look for different businesses to invest in. So I think that there's going to be capital and continue to be capital on the sidelines. I think we saw a little bit of a correction, but I don't think that the markets are in any way going to dry up anytime soon.
Yeah, I also feel like everyone's becoming an investor. I just met a guy who's investing money for Kellogg's and Westfield and brands that have a lot of money but have never historically done anything in tech. And I feel like that's also an interesting trend right now. Everyone's trying to get into it.
Yeah, I mean, again, where are you going to put your money? That's like, it's a high value problem, and it's actually interesting as a entrepreneur. We kind of go out with our hat and beg for money all over the place, but a psychological practice for people that are fundraising. I always talk to people that I mentor, work with and give advice to for fundraising, is to flip it on its head a bit. And just kind of think that you are actually helping these people invest their money somewhere, and you're helping them grow their money. And that's a psychological shift for people, as opposed to like, they're doing me a favor by investing. Yes, they are, but also you're doing them a favor by creating an opportunity for them to grow their wealth a lot. It does, I think, help when you understand that there's a problem, a high value problem, when you have a lot of dollars that you have to put it somewhere.
Yep. Cool, man. Well, I think we're out of time, but thank you so much for being our first guest. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I'm really proud of you, man.
All right.
Go kill it.
Thank you. Have a good day, and we'll talk soon.
All right, take care.
All right, bye.